Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Last night I was speaking about Krishna's forest pastimes with the gopas, the cowherd boys, and the calves. I was speaking to an audience that traditionally knows nothing about Krishna, in that they had no Vedic background whatsoever. That can be a disadvantage and an advantage. Today I'm speaking to an audience that, for the most part, has some tradition to varying degrees. A tradition about something Vedic, quasi-Vedic, near-Vedic. Still, whether speaking to the traditionals or the non-traditionals, misunderstanding about Krishna is always a problem. Let us consider how much we really accept that Krishna has pastimes, particularly forest pastimes. In order to understand Krishna, the easiest way is, of course, to chant Hare Krishna, engage in Krishna's service, and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, you won't make the mistake of dismissing Krishna's pastimes as mythological. I remember when I first flew to India in 1977, from Los Angeles to London to Calcutta, on the first 747 jumbo jet that landed at Calcutta Dum Dum Airport, 1977. So all the news media were there. Half of the reason the media was there was to greet the Western Vaishnavas. Everyone was shocked. But the other half of the reason was to see the airplane. The first jumbo jet to land in Calcutta Dum Dum Airport. So, and of course, the people all wanted to see. The people were crowding the airport wanting to see all these foreign Vaishnavas coming from exotic places like the USA, UK. We even had one devotee from Saudi Arabia back then. So the media was very interested in him. So the photographers were everywhere snapping pictures of these exotic creatures. We didn't understand what was going on. We just want to experience Mayapur and Vrindavan. And so this was 1977. That's my first time. And that's the last year, of course, that Srila Prabhupada was physically present with us. So he was there in Mayapur. He was there not in Vrindavan. His body was starting to get ill, so he went from Mayapur to Mumbai. And there was a big Pandal program arranged in Mumbai. I remember the theme of the Pandal was at the famous Cross Maidan area, public grounds. The theme was, the Western civilization is a failure. And Prabhupada liked that title, and he rose to the occasion, even though ordinarily he'd be considered ill, but he was like a lion addressing that topic. But my point in telling you this is to describe how on Air India, as we flew from London to Calcutta, of course, the pilot had to warn us because devotees, there were like 300 persons on the plane, and about 290 were devotees. And so we were having kirtan and jumping up and down, and the pilot had to tell us, "Will you please stop? Stop shaking the whole plane." We were passing buckets of halwa up and down the aisles. But I looked at, on the back of the seat, they have the back of the seat in front of you on the airplane. There's a pocket where they have safety instructions and some. Used to have flight magazines. I don't know, they don't do that anymore, but there were flight magazines. And so I looked through one Air India flight magazine. I was just, how old? 26 years old. And I couldn't understand. It said, "Welcome to the land of Krishna, the Hindu forest love god." I said, "What is this? Are we going to the homeland of the Vedas? Don't they understand the authenticity of Krishna? It's not just a mythological love god of the..." So, very soon, after being in India for a while, we understood that many people think that there are many gods. Krishna is one of them. Take your pick. See which one works for you. Or worship them all. Multi-coverage insurance policy. You never know which one's going to come through for you. Tell me, be honest, how many of you, when you were taking your exams in India, went to the temple of Saraswati? Raise your hands. You thought it might work, right? Anyway, it just cost, 100 rupees? You never know. The investment could pay off. If not, well, what's 100 rupees? So that we were coming from the West to India in 1977. We were astonished to find that there's such a misconception that there's Brahma, there's Shiva, there's Durga, there's Ganesh, there's Krishna. Just take your pick. All the roads lead to the same goal. But then when we asked people, "Well, what's the goal?" they couldn't give us a clear answer. Some said the goal is moksha. Actually, bhakti is beyond moksha. It's beyond liberation. And that's why our theme tonight is about the forest fires of separation in Braj. This is an understanding and experience far beyond dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. You all know that in a civilized society, which we don't have now, the answer Gandhi gave still is correct. When someone asked Gandhi, "What do you think about Western civilization?" he replied, "I think it would be a good idea." So, in a normal human civilization, there's dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Dharma, pious religious activity, rituals of whatever type, for whatever devata. And then, based on the dharma, the materialistic dharma, the kind of dharma that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, sarva dharmam prijyada, abandon all this. Well, that kind of dharma leads to artha, economic development. Now people think, if they think of dharma at all, they think that it depends on the economics. First is artha, bring the money, and then there could be dharma. Without artha, the argument is people will not behave properly. They have to have money, and then they'll treat each other nicely. So the Kali Yuga conception is that dharma depends on artha. For people to be moral, they need money. And when there's no money, then people have no incentive to be honest, to be concerned about their neighbor, to be tolerant. So when you can see that when the economies tighten up, then people start getting restless and frustrated and angry. So first, in the Kali Yuga society, first solve the economic problem and then talk about dharma. But in a real human civilization, first there's dharma, rituals, punya, pious activity, and then there can be artha, economic development. And after economic development, there is kama, regulated sense enjoyment according to the Vedic system, not wild kama like is going on today. In the Vedic system, everything is controlled, everything is regulated strictly. So that you have the kama bindu, the drops of kama, whereas what is the Western so-called civilization way? Kama Sindhu. The ocean of kama. So whether it's the kama bindu or the kama sindhu, it is not the ultimate goal of life. And sometimes, whether someone is in the kama bindu or the kama sindhu, they get frustrated and realize this is chewing the chewed, as Prahlad Maharaj says, puna punas charvana charvananam, chewing that which has already been chewed. And so a very few persons start thinking of moksha, liberation from material existence. But Lord Chaitanya came to give number 5, not dharma, not artha, not kama, not moksha, but prem, love of Krishna, the 5th goal. And of love of Krishna, the highest, as demonstrated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is love of Krishna in separation. So how to understand love of Krishna in separation? You see, in so many religions of the world, just like on my way here, I was seeing churches. As we came off the motorway, there were churches, big Anglican church here, church there. Open for an hour on Sunday generally, that's it. And you'll find some hint of love of God in these religions. But you get no comprehensive, in-depth explanation of what is love of God and whom you are loving. This is what makes Srimad Bhagavatam so distinct, and how it stands out above all the other scriptures, Vedic or not Vedic. Srimad Bhagavatam stands out because it is right from the beginning telling you, Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo namatsaranam satam. Right in the very beginning of the 18,000 or so verses of Bhagavatam, you are informed that it sweeps out the door any kind of motivation for the Supreme Lord that is not pure. That means any motivation for dharma, material, religious piety, any motivation for economic development, artha, any motivation for kama, sense gratification, and any motivation even for moksha, for liberation. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us, Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare, Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahoitiki Tvai. I don't mind taking birth after birth as long as I have devotional service. So this is demonstrating, this statement by Lord Chaitanya is demonstrating the fifth dimension, beyond Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Of course, the world would be much better if there were Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, the Vedic system. Now you just have the Kali Yuga jungle. Yet, amidst the barbarian state of the world, today, you have Lord Chaitanya's mission, distributing the fifth goal of life, the fifth dimension, praying. Prema Maharto Mahan. Love of Krishna is the fifth order of life. So we have direct access to that without going through Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Bhakti is beyond liberation. So Srimad Bhagavatam tells you from the very beginning, it's kicking out all Kaitava Dharma. What is Kaitava Dharma? Cheating religion. How can religion be cheating? Cheating in that something other than pure love of Krishna is being offered and advocated. So you might be thinking, how can ordinary people like us be accessing this fifth dimension, Prema Maharto Mahan? How can this be available to us? But this is the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. They're taking you immediately from the depths of Kali Yuga to the topmost. It's the expressway, the motorway. Rather than trying step by step to go from Dharma to Artha to Kama to Moksha. And the way the age of Kali is, you'll probably never make it past Kama. You don't even think of Moksha. No time, too busy working, too busy expanding the family. Moksha means you're exhausted by material existence and you want out. You don't want devotional service. You just want out of material suffering, out of material anxiety. But Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda are giving you Krishna directly. They're taking you to level 5, regardless of your material circumstances, whether you're from traditional Hindu background, non-traditional, whatever. Lord Chaitanya is saying, take love of Krishna, take it now. So to understand what is love of Krishna, you first need to understand what is pure love. Because the love that we experience in the material world, as you've heard so many times, is a perverted reflection of what is real love. Our love in the material world is based on the body, sometimes based on the mind. But we're not the body, we're not the mind. Especially when you study Chaitanya Charitamrita, the postgraduate study. Bhagavatam is the graduate study. Once you have studied Bhagavad Gita, which is the undergraduate curriculum, then you can go to Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, you are introduced to Krishna. Krishna says, Mam, unto me, and Aham, I. But he doesn't talk about himself much, and he doesn't describe himself much. He shows the Virat Rup, the universal form, but in terms of his qualities, his pastimes, he doesn't present much in Bhagavad Gita. He talks about his opulences, his vibhutis. But when you go to Bhagavatam, that's the graduate study. Everyone here has a full set of Srimad Bhagavatam in their home? Very good. You need a full set on your bookshelf, You need a full set on your phone, a full set on your laptop. Surround yourself with full sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's real wealth. So Srimad Bhagavatam sweeps out the door. Dharma projita kaitavocha. Any dharma that is not about pure love of Krishna. So in this way, Bhagavatam is non-sectarian. You can apply this standard to any so-called religious or spiritual system. Is there pure love? And what is pure love? I often point out to Christians, I don't think anyone here is from a Christian or quasi-Christian background. Anyone? No. No one from Kerala? But mostly from South India or North India? Where? South. Oh. I had an interesting experience once that there's one devotee couple in South Africa, but their families are from India, of course. And they wanted to marry. The boy was from North India, and the girl was from South India. So this was a big problem. It was such a problem that they had to marry in secret in a garage. None of the parents would attend. The parents said, oh, the South Indians are Shudras. And then that's what the North Indian parents said. And the South Indian parents said, the Northern India parents, they're impure. So neither of them came to the wedding. So anyway, so many misconceptions are there of what is Vedic, what is the Supreme Absolute Truth. So Kaitava Dharma means any kind of so-called Dharma performed for selfish purposes, for purposes other than satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even punya, good karma, pious activity, is considered not real dharma. That's why Krishna in Bhagavad Gita tells Arjuna, forget it all your conceptions of dharma, just do what I say. So we were talking about how you can find traces of pure bhakti in other religious scriptures. I explained to Christians how according to the Bible, before Jesus was going to be crucified, he was praying in the garden with his followers. He was praying. And in his prayer, as recorded in the Bible, he said, Father, appealing to the Supreme Lord, if possible, let me not have to go through this crucifixion. I know it's coming. Let me not have to go through it. And then he changed and said, no, not my will, but thy will be done. That's pure bhakti. So, but I have to explain that to Christians. It's there in your own Bible, traces. You have to be able to see it. So Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda come and they flood the world with the proper understanding. You don't have to strain to see it. Gauranga Nitai is sticking it right under your nose. This is pure love. Take it, take it, take it. Take Krishna. So in this way, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda are drowning the world with what is pure love, beyond dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Srila Prabhupada was once trying to explain what is pure love in separation, because it's hard enough to understand what is pure love. Then pure love in separation? What is this? Vipralamba Seva? What is this? So he was talking to George Harrison, the Beatle, and he was explaining to him that pure love and separation is like you're bathing in the sunlight. And sometimes in Wellington, the sun is shining very brightly, and you're feeling the sun's rays on you. And then, Srila Prabhupada explains, suddenly the sun disappears behind the clouds. He said, what do you feel? And yes, everyone would say cold. Prabhupada said, no. You feel the absence of the sun, separation from the sun. You never thought about that, did you? You just say, I feel cold. No, you feel separation from the sun. So in that way, Prabhupada taught such an exalted conception to someone totally non-traditional. And that person made music that glorified love of Krishna and separation, based on the understanding, the realization that Srila Prabhupada had given him, even though he's from a totally non-traditional background. But he caught it. He caught what, based on Prabhupada's mercy. Ah, now I understand. So I remember once, as a Sankirtan devotee, book distributor, we would go to these big concerts in the USA. This is back in the 70s. And there would be arenas full of young people, 20,000, especially to see someone like George Harrison. 20,000 young people would go to these coliseums. What's the biggest one you have in Wellington? Stadium. How many people? 40. So you can imagine 20,000 young people in these indoor arenas. And so George Harrison and Ravi Shankar, I don't know how many of you remember the original Ravi Shankar, sitar player. He was very famous back then. So he was touring with George Harrison. And so we were book distributors. So we knew these concerts are such a prime place for distributing books. Especially we had the Krishna book with the introduction by George Harrison. So anytime you saw a young person, you just show them, you see that, George? You would sell many books that way. I guess it was like today when you tell someone, Modi has come to our temple. So back then it was, George Harrison has sponsored this book. He wants you to have one. So first the book distributors would sell books to the people as they were entering the arena. There's thousands of them, so we would distribute Krishna books to them. And then once most people had entered the arena, where would we go next? To the bathrooms, because people would want to go to the bathroom before the concert started. And there were these huge bathrooms in these arenas, maybe 10 stalls, 10 toilets, 10 urinals, 10 sinks. So we would stand outside the door to the bathroom. And as people were going in the bathroom, excuse me, take a look at this. Oh, it gets even better. Then when we were really feeling the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we go inside the bathroom as the men were approaching the urinals. Excuse me, sir. We want to show you something. George Harrison sent this book for you. Then as the concert was starting, we go into the arena, and we go up and down the aisles, because you couldn't go into the rows. But the people sitting on the aisles, we would approach them with books. We would stash a quantity of books somewhere at the top of the arena. So then I heard, so George Harrison was doing the concert. He and Ravi Shankar were performing together. And George would call him Uncle Ravi. And so he announced, now I'm going to sing a song, I Miss You, Lord Krishna, Where Are You? I heard that, and I knew just what to do. I loaded up my arms with Krishna books. And he sang the song, I Miss You, Lord Krishna, Where Are You? As soon as he finished, I yelled out, Krishna book, Krishna book. 100 people jumped out of their seats and rushed towards me with money in their hands. In 5 minutes, I had distributed 100 Krishna books. They were pushing me against the back wall of the arena. That was the power of Srila Prabhupada's preaching. That George was not a fully practicing devotee, but some or other, Prabhupada used him to reach so many people. So, even George Harrison was given a glimpse of what is love of Krishna and separation. So we're going to talk about the forest fires of separation in Braj. But first, how many of you actually accept Krishna's forest pastimes? Or do you think it's just some kind of mythology? Ask yourself that question. Is this really the topmost level of the spiritual world? So I have some notes here that I wanted to share with you. Because many people dismiss Krishna's forest pastimes as mythology, just like I saw on the Air India flight from London to Calcutta. Their flight magazine, Krishna is the Hindu forest love god. That's a popular misunderstanding of Krishna. So as long as you're thinking Krishna is possibly mythological, how can you benefit from the full impact of Krishna's Vana Lila, his forest pastimes? And if we can't understand Krishna as the butter thief, how are we going to understand Krishna's playing with the cowherd boys in the forest? And we'll never understand Krishna's Madhurya Lila, his playing with the gopis on the bank of the Yamuna. We'll never understand that. So our life depends on understanding Krishna in truth. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tattvataha. If you can understand Krishna's janma, how he seems to take birth, but actually doesn't take birth. He's unborn. If you can understand his activities, his karma, in truth, tattvata, if you know the science, then chakra deham punarjanma naiti mameti soarjuna. Krishna says, mameti, you'll come to me. So it's very important that we understand Krishna in truth and not just think, oh, I'm worshiping Krishna because my grandmother worshiped Krishna. No, you have to understand in truth the science of Krishna. And that's why Srimad Bhagavatam is so important. Bhagavatam presents Krishna's forest pastimes as the highest reality, the cream of the Vedas. What? Krishna's forest pastimes are the cream of the Upanishads and the Vedanta? You see, we have this misconception many times that, first of all, there are many gods. Secondly, there is Brahman, all-pervading Brahman. And we think Krishna's forest pastimes are subordinate to all that. Although Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mata pratanam nanya kinchit asti dhananjaya, there's nothing beyond me. Nothing beyond me means nothing beyond Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. But because we're tainted by impersonalism, by Mayavad, we think that Krishna's forest pastimes are so variegated. How can that be the ultimate spiritual reality? The ultimate spiritual reality, we speculate, is just undifferentiated oneness. And then we further speculate, thinking you can take any path you want, worship any god, and you'll get the oneness. This is a misunderstanding that's choking spiritual realization, especially in India. Whereas Prabhupada's advantage, that what he took complete advantage of, was coming to the West where no one knew anything about Krishna. He said this is the advantage of his Western disciples. They're blank slates. They have no preconceptions about Krishna. I remember distributing books on the streets of New York in the early 70s. And as soon as we would see someone from India, we'd think, sure sale. We'd come up, hey, Bhagavad Gita, we have it. Nope, I'm knowing everything about Krishna. We were totally bewildered. You're from India, surely you want a Bhagavad Gita as it is. You know everything about Krishna. Whereas you approach someone from a non-traditional background and, what is this? Very interesting. Whether one is from east, west, north, or south, understanding Krishna can be a problem. Whether you're from USA, India, here, there, Antarctica, wherever you're from, understanding Krishna can be a problem unless you hear from the right source. I often tell the story. My last year at Yale University, I decided I'll study Hinduism. I'll take a course in Hinduism. Because I hear that part of Hinduism is Bhagavad Gita. And I'd be very interested to hear Bhagavad Gita and learn it. So I went to the course, and the professor, world famous professor, still world famous, he gave the first assignment: read a section of the Upanishads and write an essay on what you think it means. I said, wait a minute. I'm coming to this class to learn, not to speculate. I can speculate any time of the day and night. So I said, forget it. I'm not taking this course from this world-famous professor. I have the reading list. I'll go to the university bookstore and get all the books on the reading list. I'll read them on my own. So one of the books was a version of Bhagavad Gita by a British scholar. The verses were in the front and his commentary was in the back. So I just opened to his commentary and I read something that shocked me. Even though I knew nothing about Krishna, something in my heart said, this is bogus. I read, Krishna is a concept meant to satisfy both the intellectuals and the sentimentalists. I said, what is this? But I knew nothing about Krishna, but something in my heart said, trash this book. So most students back then were political activists against imperialism, colonialization, against this, against that. So I reacted in that way. This is a commentary by a British colonizer, imperialist, slave master, throw it out. Anyway, somehow or other Krishna saved me from reading it. But I promised myself, one day I'm going to find a real Bhagavad Gita. I'm going to find a native translation. That's how I put it to myself. I'll find a native translation. And 1 month later, I did come across Bhagavad Gita. So to understand Krishna is so difficult. What to speak of to understand love of Krishna? What to speak of understanding love of Krishna in separation? But think about Prabhupada's example. You're basking in the sunshine, and then suddenly the clouds cover the sun. You don't feel simply cold, you're feeling separation from the sun. Separation from the sun is an existential state, just like love of Krishna and separation. Separation from Krishna is an existential state. You're still connected to Krishna. You're through that feeling of separation, just like you're still connected to the sun by feeling separation from it. So separation from Krishna or separation from the sun is still in connection to Krishna, still in connection to the sun. It's a bhava, an emotional state that's still in connection with Krishna or the sun. And then you find out that the residents of Vrindavan have Krishna's presence more in separation feelings than they do when they're meeting him. And Krishna knows this. That's why in the 10th canto, Krishna tells the gopis, he says, I know how to bring out the best love. He gives the example of someone who's been poverty-stricken all their life. Suppose you were dirt poor all your life, and then you won the lottery for $400 million. You didn't buy the lottery ticket. You didn't gamble. Someone gave you the ticket. No one here plays the lottery, right? It is gambling. Huge gambling enterprise. So, but anyway, someone gave you a lottery ticket. You had just come from India and were trying to establish yourself and struggling. And then you have the winning lottery ticket for $400 million. Oh, just think how you would feel. And then you lose it, all of it. What would you be thinking? You would never be able to stop thinking about that 400 million you lost. I had it, it's gone. So Krishna told that to the gopis. This is love of Krishna and separation. You'll never stop thinking about me after once having me. We think in our body consciousness, we think that meeting in love is the best. But no, in terms of the emotional state of Krishna consciousness, of which material consciousness is the perverted reflection, but in Krishna consciousness, in spiritual perfection, the intensity of meeting Krishna is less than the intensity of feeling separation from Krishna. So that's why Krishna would leave devotees, to give them the best. Now, what if your spouse told you something like that? And I want to give you the best, so I'm leaving you. It'd be a scandal. But you see, the material world is the upside down version of the spiritual world. What's the highest in the spiritual world is the lowest in the material world. So Krishna, in order to give the highest, apparently leaves his devotees. So they think about him even more. The mystery is that through those feelings of separation from Krishna, Krishna is present. This is a great mystery, which you can't understand in the bodily conception of life. So the Bhagavatam is presenting the highest reality. It is not just some collection of stories. And Bhagavatam is scriptural authority. It's the essence of all Vedic wisdom. You may think that Krishna Leela, his pastimes, are just present in the Bhagavatam and nowhere else. Therefore, it's the Bhagavatam's thing, so to speak. Not true. You'll find Krishna's pastimes in Padma Purana, Vishnu Purana, Harivamsha. Furthermore, Bhagavatam is a living tradition. You can go to Vrindavan. You can go to Govardhan Hill. You can go to all these places, like Tirthas, Keshi Tirtha, where Krishna killed the Keshi demon. You can go to the Yamuna River. If things were just mythology, if what you're hearing is just mythology, why has this living tradition persisted for thousands upon thousands of years? And when you go to Vrindavan today, you feel the presence of Krishna. If you're a bhakta, if you're an abhakta, a non-devotee, you think, oh, Vrindavan is just a crowded, noisy town. So Bhagavatam is giving you Krishna's forest pastimes. This is a living tradition. It has roots in geography. And you're being presented with the comprehensive understanding of Krishna. Krishna is the emanator of the cosmos, but he's also Gopal Krishna. He plays with calves. He plays with cowherd boys in the forest. How do you put all that together? There's awe and reverence for Krishna, and then there is the sweetness of his forest pastimes. The cowherd boys don't think that Krishna is God. Krishna doesn't want them to think that. That ruins Krishna's fun. What happened? We were discussing last night at the Bhakti Lounge. What happened at the second time after Krishna swallowed a forest fire? The second time, how did he do it? He told the cowherd boys what? What did he instruct them to do first? Close your eyes. Now, if you were surrounded by a forest fire and someone told you, just close your eyes, what would you do? No way. And this was a fierce forest fire. Now, there's another point you should consider. How can there be forest fires in Braj? Krishna's present in Braj. How can there be forest fires? Ordinarily, it wouldn't happen. But the first fire on the bank of the Yamuna after Krishna's dancing on the heads of Kaliya, that night there was a forest fire. That is said to be a friend of Kaliya's seeking revenge. Kavi Karnapur says that fire was actually started by Krishna to drive the residents of Vrindavan closer to him. The second forest fire, involving the cowherd boys and the cows, that was said to be a friend of Pralambasura, who had just been killed. Ordinarily, you don't have any spontaneous combustion forest fires in Vrindavan. But this is Krishna Leela. So Krishna told the cowherd boys, close your eyes. The acharyas point out, some of the cowherd boys figured it out. We know why Krishna has told us to close our eyes. It's because he's the master of various jewels and mantras. And these jewels and mantras don't work when everyone's watching. That's why he's asked us to close our eyes. So they closed their eyes. What is Krishna thinking? He wanted them to close their eyes because he knew if they see me swallow the forest fire because they love me so much, they'll jump into the forest fire, just thinking they're going to save me. So Krishna said, close your eyes. And then with his hands, he cupped his hands to his mouth and swallowed the forest fire. But not only did he swallow the forest fire, but he transferred the cowherd boys and cows out of the danger of the forest fire to where they had been blissfully playing at the base of a bandira banyan tree. Special banyan tree, bandira, sometimes called bandiraka. Huge banyan tree. The cowherd boys would use the branches of this banyan tree to hoist themselves up onto the shoulders of a cowherd boy that had been defeated in wrestling, because that defeated cowherd boy had to carry the victorious cowherd boy on the shoulders. So they would grab onto the branches of the bandira tree and pull up and then squat on the shoulders of the defeated cowherd boy. So they were back there, peacefully relaxing with the cows. And then Krishna told them, open your eyes. And they were astonished. Where's the forest fire? Were we dreaming? So in this way, Krishna saved the cowherd boys. But the cowherd boys were not begging Krishna to save their own skin when they called out to him. Krishna, Krishna, Mahavira. Hey Ramamoga Vikrama. They called out to Balaram too. They were not asking to save their own skin from the forest fire. They were thinking, if we die, we'll be separated from Krishna. Krishna, save us from separation from you. If we die, how are we going to play with you? You need to play with us. How can you be satisfied if we're dead? You need us for playing. We haven't finished our playing activities, which are supposed to go on for a long time. So Krishna, save us. Mahavira. You're so powerful, Krishna. Balaram, you have unlimited potencies. Amoga Vikrama. The same thing, the first forest fire on the bank of the Yamuna, in the vicinity of the bank of the Yamuna, after Krishna's dancing on Kaliya. Nanda Maharaj, when he's informed there's a huge forest fire on its way, he appeals to Krishna. And in both cases, the cowherd boys in the second forest fire and Nanda Maharaj and the Brijbasis in the first forest fire, in both cases, they remembered the words of Gargarishi, who said, this boy will have the presence of Narayan and save you from any dangers. The Brijbasis never considered that Krishna is God. They just remember, Gargarishi said, Narayan will enter within him and use him. But they cannot accept that Krishna is God. So after the second forest fire, when the cowherd boys are safe, transported by Krishna to the base of the bandira tree, and there they are. And Krishna tells them, open your eyes. And they're shocked. No forest fire. Everything is fine. So then the cowherd boys started to do Brijbasi speculation. Krishna has done something non-human. You know, our friend Krishna must be a devata. You see, for him to do what he just did. But if he's a Devata, you know what that means. We're Devatas also, because we're all equal. Wow, we are Devatas. Krishna's a Devata, that means we're Devatas. He's our friend, we're his friend, we're all demigods, okay. So after Krishna dealt with the forest fire, what comes next? He has to deal with the fire of separation that the gopis are feeling back home. So Krishna, Balaram, the cowherd boys, the cows, the goats, the buffaloes, because there are also goats and buffaloes there, they would all start on the way back to Nandagram. How many of you have been to Nandagram? So on the way to Nandagram and the surrounding villages, the gopis in the surrounding villages would be up on the balconies of the houses watching for Krishna. And when Krishna would come by, they would stare at Krishna with sidelong glances. They were very chaste, but they knew a sidelong glance is most powerful. I sometimes ask the ladies, can you demonstrate a sidelong glance? And they all pretend they know nothing about it. But the gopis specialize in sidelong glances out of the corner of their eyes. And they catch Krishna's eyes in that way. They catch his glances. As they're nearing Nandagram, Balaram suddenly races ahead. He's eager, so eager to get back to Nandagram. That gives Krishna an opportunity to trade glances with the gopis without being observed by his older brother. The acharyas explain this. Krishna is respectful to his older brother, doesn't want his older brother seeing him making eye contact with the gopi girls who have been waiting for Krishna to return from the forest. They're feeling every moment to be like 100 yugas, millions of years. They're actually feeling that. But Krishna's just left in the morning and he's coming back in the evening, but still they're feeling such acute separation. Their feelings of separation are so intense that just when their eyes blink, they can't tolerate it. That's separation from Krishna just during an eye blink. Unbearable. This is the symptom, the acharyas point out, of the topmost level of prema. There's 7 levels of prema. After bhava, there's 7 levels. Bhava is a preliminary state of love of Krishna, and then 7 levels of prema, culminating in mahabhava. And this yugayatam nameshena chakshusha prabhashayatam, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in his verse, Govinda virahename. This is symptomatic of the highest level of Krishna prema. So Krishna has put out the forest fire of and now he's going to put out the forest fire of separation of the gopis. He's dealt with the cowherd boys and the forest fire threatening them and the cows. So please remember that Bhagavatam is not mythological. Krishna's forest pastimes are the summit, the ultimate. And what is the proof? The proof is these pastimes have a transformative effect on you. They cleanse your heart when you hear them. How can mythology cleanse your heart? So there's an effect in the real world. The effect is based on Shabda Brahman, sound vibration. You hear about Krishna's pastimes from an authorized source, your heart becomes cleansed. No mythology can do that. So we have a living tradition based on sound vibration. And that's why when you go to a holy place, the main thing to do is to hear. Because that's how the transcendental experience comes to you. So yes, Krishna is Jagannath, the Lord of the universe, who has forest pastimes, which are the pinnacle of spiritual existence. The forest pastimes during the day and the forest pastimes during the night. All right, any questions?
Hare Krishna, Brother. Very nice to hear from you. My question is around pure love of God, pure love of Krishna. As you were explaining, it's hard to understand Krishna. Even harder is to understand pure love of Krishna, and the hardest is to understand, the love and separation. So my question is there any way, as a sadhaka, we can try and endeavor to develop the pure love, though we are so entangled into the, chores and all those responsibilities? So how do we do that? Maharaj?
Always think, how can Krishna enjoy in the best way? How can I do for Krishna what gives him the best pleasure? The more you think like that, the more you are not in the material world. This is Vrindavan consciousness anywhere. Somehow or other, connect everything you're doing to Krishna's pleasure. Aspire to do that. Krishna's in your heart. He knows. You're thinking, oh, Krishna, how can I do more for you? I'm not doing enough for you. Krishna's in your heart and notices that. So the more you think like that, the more you have Vrindavan anywhere in this world.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's a very, very nice class which you taken to the highest point, which you made us to realize the highest point which we have to meditate on, which we have to look for. But is this deepest knowledge is only given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Is there any time in the whole history it is been exposed or given by anyone else other than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
Madhavendra Puri is before the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How did he have this? Through the heart. And that seed of Madhavendra Puri, grew into the tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Love of Krishna is eternal, but it appears at various times. It comes out in the foreground. Everything is cyclic, repetitive. Things appear and then they seem to disappear. Just like Krishna comes and then he seems to disappear. Similarly, love of Krishna seems to appear and then disappear. But as Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Saju Kabunoy Shravanade Shuddha Chitte Koreye Udoy. Pure love of Krishna is eternally present. Sometimes it manifests and sometimes not. It's eternally present in our hearts, but it's covered. Very good question. Thank you.
for the nice question, Maharaj. Maharaj, my question is, throughout Bhagavad Gita, Krishna declared himself that, there's nothing beyond him, right? And everything came from him. But still, why people misinterpret it? Like what?
Why people?
Misinterpret it. And what makes people misinterpret that direct?
Envy. Srila Prabhupada would get so angry about this misinterpretation. Krishna says, Mom, unto me. And then how can you say, but it's actually not that way. Just like if you say, please give me the microphone. And then I say, oh, it must be to the impersonal oneness, the whatever, the undefined. And you're right there, to me. No, you actually don't exist. You're a temporary manifestation of Brahman. Envy. You're such a likable person, you probably never had the situation in which someone detested you. Maybe at work they became envious of you. We have one devotee at Bhakti Lounge, Rujaram Pandit. He's from Japan. And he's got a problem at the workplace because he does the work of 10 people. The Japanese material nature is like that. They have a word in Japanese for a special word, one word for death by overwork. It's called karoshi. So at the workplace, he creates problems. The Kiwis have to take him aside and say, you're working too hard, you're making us look bad. Slack off. So they get angry at him. So he has that kind of problem at the workplace. The bosses love him because he does the work of 10 people, Japanese style. But his peers, they hate him. They want him out because he's raising the standard too high. They want to, Friday at 2 p.m., they all want to leave, go for a walk in the mountains, Kiwi style. I don't know if it's like that now in today's job market, but. So we get envious of Krishna. We don't want that bhakti, devotional service to Krishna is the foremost. First should be artha, economic considerations. Then a bit of dharma, little ritualistic religion. Moksha, no. Kama, yes. But not Western style kama, not the kama Sindhu. Kama Bindu. The superior Indian way. Forget about moksha. We don't take Krishna directly because we're envious. If you hear from Krishna directly, your life has to change. So therefore, better Durga, Shiva, Ganesh, they don't ask you to surrender. And you can pray to them, please give me this, please give me that. But to Krishna, the acharyas tell us, just pray for pure devotion. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for such a wonderful discourse. I really felt the nectar when you were relating the pastimes of Krishna. Thank you so much. My question is about envy. You mentioned in response to Radha's question that Krishna's envy from Krishna. But my problem is that I feel I have envy against all human beings. What are the baby steps? Can you suggest anything? I can kill this demon, tame this demon. The envy that you find, I feel, for my colleagues at work, every other human being, Krishna's far away. My problem is that I think envy against human beings. How can I work on that?
But the origin of your envy is Krishna. You search your heart and you'll see that the origin of envy is against Krishna. He's the supreme enjoyer. He's the supreme controller. And because you're envious of Krishna, then you become envious of Krishna's parts and parcels. And Krishna himself explains, don't be envious. He tells Arjuna, because you're never envious of me, therefore I'm going to teach you confidential knowledge. The envy begins with Krishna. Bhagavad Gita, Ichcha Dvesha Samuttena Dvandva Mohena Bharata. All living entities are born into this world afflicted by aversion to Krishna and attachment to disobeying the instructions of Krishna. This is our psychological conditioning as conditioned souls. So if you trace that envy you claim to feel, I don't believe it, but if you trace that envy that you're feeling towards human beings, it originates with envy of Krishna. You have to search deeply and you'll find that. That's the root. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful class. Maharaj, this love in separation that you mentioned, that will only be applicable when you have met Krishna, like you have that experience, and then you are separated, then you will feel that love. So for the practitioners, how is that love of separation is applicable for us?
That's why you have Chaitanya Charitamrita. How many of you have full set Chaitanya Charitamrita? There you are presented with Radha Tattva, love of Krishna in separation, as demonstrated so unforgettably by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is giving it out to everyone, traditional, non-traditional, everyone taste it. You may not know what you're tasting, but I'm giving the taste, Lord Chaitanya said. It's inconceivable. How do you give love of Krishna to people who don't know who Krishna is? But that's Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. They're giving the taste, and then later they say, do you want to understand this? So this is the miracle of Shri Shri Gaur Nitai. They're Krishna and Balaram, and they're giving away the taste of love of Krishna in separation, even to persons who don't know who is Krishna. Taste first, and then develop the knowledge, follow the bhakti path. This is the miracle of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Krishna can do that. He can give out the taste of love of himself in separation, even to persons who don't know who is Krishna. That's why I told this story about George Harrison. He was not a fully practicing bhakta. You know that, right? He was not a fully practicing bhakta. But he had some propensity for serving Krishna, and Prabhupada fanned the spark. And the music of George Harrison affected so many young people. It sold millions of Krishna books. So in the Krishna book, you'll read in one section, Srila Prabhupada writes that it is the duty of the acharyas, the Gaudiya Vaishnava acharyas, to teach their followers love of Krishna and separation. So that's why we're having this discussion now. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, gradually the feelings of separation from Krishna magnify. By hearing the Hare Krishna mantra, gradually the feelings of separation from Krishna develop. This is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so important. Without understanding what Lord Chaitanya has given, it's very difficult these days to understand Radha and Krishna. There's so much confusion, even in India, about Krishna because they're not going through Lord Chaitanya. So therefore, oh, Hindu forests love God. So I thank you all for your kind attention. Hare Krishna.